sort of a hard act to follow from all those students and their awards that they won. Ladies and gentlemen of the board, I thank you for the opportunity to come before you. I am here as the incoming chairman of the Spotsylvania Republican Party. The remarks are my own because we have not yet held an official meeting to discuss these issues. This is a very sad day in the history of Spotsylvania County. 6 of your members made a totally unprovoked attack on the Spotsylvania Republican Party. In effect, you have declared war on us, falsely accusing us of actions we never took. In your letter, you went on, and I quote, "We invite the chairman to join us at the next school board meeting and explain the committee's position." Then, when I said I wanted to meet with you, your chairman demurred. In a subsequent phone call, he told me it was not possible for me to be on the agenda. Our only resort, I was told, was to take this public comment time. He indicated I would be granted a little more than the usual 5 minutes, which I am taking advantage of. Let me begin at the beginning. At the Board of Supervisors meeting held to discuss the proposed budget, one individual made a private comment to the person next to her. She was then asked by the speaker what was said, and she repeated her comment in response to that question. The speaker and others attending the Board of Supervisors meeting took exception to the comment, a comment protected by her First Amendment rights of free speech. On February 25th of the following week, at our monthly GOP meeting, at the very end of the session, your vice chairman suddenly spoke up. We had had no notice of her requesting time on the agenda of our meeting. She then ambushed everyone in the room by reading aloud a letter signed by 6 of you. She read it in front of the entire committee to try and embarrass us. With no prior notice, as innocent bystanders, we were subject to a totally unprovoked personal attack. The GOP committee immediately voted not to accept the letter because it was totally wrong. The GOP had had nothing to do with any comments at the Board of Supervisors meeting, and contrary to the assertion in your letter, we had no policy and no position on the issues mentioned in the letter. Your letter was, to put it simply, totally erroneous. The next day, I emailed Ms. Gramp and indicated that an apology was in order because the GOP had had nothing to do with any comments or any responses at the Board of Supervisors meeting. The original comment was made by someone who identified herself loudly and clearly as representing a totally different organization. In short, at no point then or since has the GOP made any comments or taken a position on whatever happened at the Board of Supervisors meeting. We have remained above this fray, wanting only to clear our good name. We never received even the courtesy of an acknowledgement, much less an apology from Ms. Gramp. Note, my email to Ms. Gramp was my first attempt to establish the truth and calm the troubled waters. My second attempt was a call to Dr. Baker. I told him that the Gramp letter was wrong and hoped for an apology. That did not come from Dr. Baker. I then suggested that he contact your legal counsel. Dr. Baker's first reaction was, "Are you going to sue us?" But I assured him this was the last thing in our mind. What I hoped was their counsel, reading the letter and seeing it was totally in error, would recommend a retraction and or apology. Note, that attempt to have your counsel intervene was my third try, and it failed. I then asked Dr. Baker for a place on the agenda of the next Board of Education meeting in exact accordance with the request in Ms. Gramp's letter. He said that this would have to come from the elected members and that Mr. Braswell, your chairman, would call me. When Mr. Braswell did call me, I was nonplussed when the first thing he said was, "I understand you have some questions." I did not have any questions on the Gramp letter. I only wanted to put this dispute to rest by accepting the invitation to a meeting that you yourselves had asked for and then hearing your apology. So once again, I asked to meet with the board, as 6 of you had explicitly requested. In short, even Mr. Braswell himself, by signing the letter, had said he wanted to meet with me. But when I said that I would indeed accept his invitation, he indicated he did not know how that could be done, but would get back to me. Note, that call represented my 4th attempt to put this to rest. Last Monday, Mr. Braswell, true to his word, did call me, but indicated it would not be possible to meet with the board because according to him, there was no precedent. That conversation with your chairman represented my 5th attempt to put this to rest before my presentation tonight. He did offer me this public comment time.
Mr. King, forgive me for interrupting. I just want to let your 5-minute allotment expired, and I will refer you to the chairman of the board if you'd like to request additional time.
Are you asking for 5 additional minutes, sir?
About 2.5.
Okay, do we have a motion on the floor to authorize the speaker additional time?
I move that we allow Mr. King to have additional time.
Ms. Blaylock moved, seconded by Dr. Meyer. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposes? 7-0. Please continue, sir.
Thank you. He did offer me this public comment time, and I thank him and you for allowing me to speak. Put yourself in our position. Ms. Grant first ambushed us with a letter that was factually wrong. Then, rather than admitting the error, you have compounded the problem by doubling down 5 separate times. The Republican Party over the years has endorsed, we cannot nominate, specific candidates for the Board of Education. In my 18 years in Spotsylvania, I have never detected any political bias in our endorsements. So here we are. Let's look at the potential future consequences. In short, by refusing to acknowledge the error you made regarding the Republican Party, one of the 2 major political parties in the country, you have deliberately chosen to politicize education. You have declared war on the GOP. I personally do not see any alternative at this point other than to accept your challenge. It is now 1 minute before Armageddon. One last time, our 6th, we will still accept your apology that your letter was in error. After that, while I cannot predict the future, it certainly looks bleak for future discussions about education, pay, funding, and so forth. Finally, I want to call the public's attention to your own Code of Ethics, which each of you signed. Point 9 says, I will refrain from using the board position for partisan gain and avoid any appearance of impropriety. My emphasis. I do not have time to elaborate on how 6 of you directly violated your own Code of Ethics, but I hope the general public does take notice. Thank you for the opportunity to express our position, and I do have copies of my presentation for you.